Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I'm joined here today by my good friend Angela Strecker of Blue Wings Events. And Angela, thank you for coming in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you guys are and what you do?
Thanks, Reed. I am Angela Strecker with Blue Wings Events, and we are based out of Tacoma, Washington, but we cover all of Washington State, wherever we want to go, really, our clients want to send us. We do weddings, corporate events, life celebrations. We do a lot of weddings during the summer, and then during the summer we've been picking up quite a bit of corporate events. We do different types of corporate events like picnics, networking meetings, all types of different types of events. And we've been in business for about 3 years now, and we have 2 or 3 staff members, depends on time of the year. Right now we're picking up more staff, but I have one full-time person, and then myself, I'm full-time too. So this is a full-time business for me. It's not a fly-by-the-night or a part-time business, so I do not have another job. I am full-time for my clients, and so is my one staff member. And then I have another staff member that is part-time, and then we pick up other staff members during the summer.
And I do think that that's a really good differentiating point. And I was reading about that on your website too, talking about how this is full-time, and talk about, it's obvious to you and me, but why is that a key differentiating point to you? And why is that something that you really like to emphasize, that this is what you do full-time?
Well, I like to emphasize it because I'm not distracted by another job. I don't have another boss. I am my boss. I'm not distracted by a 9-to-5 job or, another job pulling me apart, pulling me away from my wedding, so that when my couples call me and want my attention, I'm there for them. I do have office hours, and I don't work on Mondays, but if it's an emergency, I will work for them. But when you're working another job, a lot of times when they're working part-time somewhere else, they can't answer the phone and they're distracted. And plus, I'm engrossed into the business. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like going to a trade show 100 times over. The amount of people behind me, I'm this filter, I'm a funnel. I'm one person at the top, but behind me is hundreds of vendors because I work the business. I'm involved in the business. I go to the trade shows. I'm really involved in different things. So because I have invested myself into the business and I'm full-time, it makes a difference. I'm really involved in the business, so I know what's going on. And I think that that's kind of where I like to make sure clients know that, just so that they know, oh, you're really serious. This is not you're going to be here tomorrow. You're not going to be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, and obviously not that you can't be a wedding vendor and have a part-time job, but
exactly.
I am finding, as I'm interviewing people that I really trust and that I know are talented professionals, a lot of them are like you and can come over here at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday or whatever day this is, because it is something that you do full time and you're able to build your schedule. And also I think that's helpful with meeting with clients, and if they need to meet after work or on the weekend or whatever, that you can kind of accommodate that. Whereas if you're working like a 9-to-5 or something that you might not, it's difficult. Yeah. So
I do get a lot of clients that are that come from out of state. I do a lot of events at Thornwood Castle down in Tacoma, and a lot of those clients are coming from Alaska and Idaho and California. They come from all over the place, Hawaii, and they come in out of town, and they got a day, and I got to bring vendors in, lining them up. And so a lot of times I need vendors. I need people that can be flexible in their schedules, and so I'm looking for certain vendors that can be flexible with their time schedule because this person is flying in. And then I have a lot of clients that are professionals. Most of my clients are professionals, lawyers, doctors, and they work crazy hours. I'm meeting with clients at 9:30 at night sometimes, or I'm meeting with them early in the morning, or the doctor's at lunch hour. It's kind of one of those things. So I'm really flexible, and not that I don't, like you said, some of my vendors do have other jobs, and it's only because they're really good at what they do. But I like to reiterate it again because I'm insured, and I like to make sure that all my vendors are insured, and usually sometimes part-time ones aren't insured. So but yeah, it's something that I like to let people know that that's how we work. We're full-time.
And so your guys' tagline for Blue Wing Wedding and Events is letting you be a guest at your own event.
Yeah.
Talk about that and kind of I think that when you're a company, I think, your branding and your tagline is really, really important, right?
Yeah.
And I've actually been hired to do videos for companies, and they're like trying to come up with the tagline like as we're doing the video. And I'm like, that's a terrible, you should really know, right, who you are. Talk about that and what does that mean to you, letting you be a guest at your own event?
Well, when I introduce myself a lot of times to people, before I even tell them that I'm an event planner or a wedding planner, because usually the first thing they say is, "Oh, I'm not getting married. I don't need you." I usually tell people what I do is I allow people to be in the moment. I allow them to be a guest at their own event. Being in the moment and being a guest at your own event means mom's able to stand there and see her daughter walk down the aisle and not be worried about, did she get the right flowers? Or is her dress lined up right in the back? Or is the catering got the appetizers out? Mom's just standing there looking at her daughter walking down the aisle. And the videographer and the camera guys got the great picture of it. Or if it's a corporate event, they're allowed to be able to network and be there in the moment and be with their clients and making sales without worrying, that vendor didn't show up. Why didn't they show up? So to me, it's about not having to worry about anything, about just being there in the moment, not having your phone in front of your face and taking a picture, because we've got it. We've hired the professionals to take the pictures. We've hired them to do things. So I just had a client just yesterday asked me, well, who's going to take down the tent, and who's going to take down the tables, and who's going to, because it's a whole setup. I mean, we're talking food trucks, we're talking everything. And they're talking because we're renting everything. And they're like, well, who's going to take all that down? We're going to have to bring in people. I go, no, we hired professionals. When you get up in the morning, it's gone. And she's like, oh. I go, yeah, you get to leave when the last guest leaves. And she was like, oh, that's amazing. I says, yes, that's why you hired me. I will be the last person to leave. I will make sure you get your deposit back and everything will be fine. So just leave. And that's what I want. That's what I want people to do. I want them to say, oh my gosh, I got to see my daughter walk down the aisle and I didn't worry about a thing.
And that reminds me, so we were talking off air about where we met, and we agreed, I think it was the Green River Community College open house. And that was a slower show, and we did a lot of talking, kind of waiting there. And I remember telling you that, to me, a wedding planner, as if you ask me any other vendor, photographer, florist, to me, I think a wedding vendor or a wedding coordinator planner has the hardest job trying to sell their services to the client, because it is a fact, you can get married without a, planner or coordinator. That doesn't necessarily, and just because you got married, yes, that is a success in terms of you got married, but was the food hot, or did people feel like they knew what was going on, or were the vendors taking care of her? There's a lot of intangible things that kind of go into, yes, you did get married, but maybe, you tripped 18 times throughout the day to get there, where I think it is, working with doing weddings with a planner and doing weddings without a planner as a videographer. I mean, it is a night and day experience in terms of not only my experience, but more importantly, the bride and groom, their experience. And not only that, like you said, their families, the mother of the bride, father of the bride. What challenges do you find in trying to sell who you are and your services to clients out there in the world?
Well, you're right. There's nothing tangible. There's nothing that they get at the end of the day that they look at a picture and, oh, I've got this picture that says I hired a planner. So it is a little harder to sell. Usually it's stress. It usually is the number one thing that brings them to us is stress. Usually they're overloaded. Usually with clients, my clients, a lot of them are professionals. They are both working and they just don't have the time. They really don't have the time. And we have found with a lot of our clients, I just tell them, just hand it over. And I'm like, I will let you pick your venue. I will give you 3 or 4 choices. I'll let you pick your venue. I will let you pick your photographer. And that's about it. And the rest of it, you're just giving me the money. And most of them, you just see the stress just drop right there. They're like, really? I go, yeah. Well, you get to pick the food. I mean, you get to pick the color, but you don't get to pick the rest of it. I'm going to carry the contracts. I'm going to carry it. I'm going to do it all. You're not going to touch anything anymore. I'm not going to make you sign another piece of paper. And when I start talking to them, because that's kind of how our plan is with us, we're a little bit different than some other planners. We're going a little bit of a different route. So when we deal with that with clients, when I tell clients that, and they realize that they don't have to do anything after they hand over their check of how much ever their wedding's going to cost, and then I'm going to keep them on budget because I've got all their money, they're like relieved. And they're like, really? I don't have to do anything else? Nope. You don't have to do nothing. Show up. To them, they're just done. And so that is kind of what I sell to them. And then I sell to them I don't even sell to them. I convince them. I don't even have to convince them. It's just telling them, I don't want you to have to think that, I don't want you to be that person that has to tell somebody at your wedding, I'm sorry, you have to stop drinking. I don't want you to be the bad person. I don't want your mom to be the bad person, or your aunt, or your cousin, or your third cousin. I don't care who they are. I don't want any of them to be the bad person. I want to be the bad person. Let me carry the load and turn to the caterer and say, get the mold off of the bread and fix it. Or let me turn to, the best friend that has passed out and is, streaking down the hallway, which we've had, and have to deal with that so that I can be the bad person, not you. Because no one likes having to turn to their aunt or uncle or the caterer and say, can you fix, you can't do that. But I'll do it in a second. So when I tell people that I get to be that person, they're like, oh, I'm dealing with all the time, restraining orders. There's all types of things. The family dynamics. I got restraining orders. I've had all types of things you wouldn't believe. But I just deal with it. And so when I tell people that, I've had clients hire me just to deal with restraining orders and issues with moms and be the third party, be the go-between. And so when I tell people that, then they're like, oh, okay, please, can you charge more? I'm like, yes, I can.
No, and I think that that's a good point. Even just that simple, not simple, but that tangible of you, being that person. We had a wedding a couple weeks ago, and there was an issue with the catering, and we're in the middle of, doing family photos, and that's not really the best time if you're a bride and you're getting all these portraits that you're going to, hang on your wall for the next 50 years. And to know that something is seriously wrong with the catering.
Exactly.
And luckily they had a planner, and she said, you know what, I'm going to go figure this out.
Yep.
You guys aren't paying for anything, we're going to take care of this. And, and she disappeared and then came back and everything was resolved. And I think if you were the bride or groom or mom or whoever that had to go deal with that, that's a terrible memory of your wedding day.
It's a terrible memory. And I actually tell my clients when I meet with my clients about a week before their wedding, and I tell them we walk through the entire day. Every point of the rehearsal in the day, because I tell them we walk through it because I'm like, you're so distracted. You've lost it. You got friends, you got family, videography's in your face, cameraman's in your face, everyone's in your face. You don't know what up and down is. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I walk through the day when I have their attention, and then I tell them, I ask them, what is the most important thing of the day? Is it the cake? Is it, what is so important that I have to tell you about it? Is, the cake fell apart and I got to redo it, or the flowers, something happened with whatever. And they'll tell me exactly what it is. I says, because you know what? The rest of it, you ain't going to hear about it. And you might not ever hear about it. Ever. You could ask me up and down the wall and you'll never hear about it. And I had a wedding out at, in Sumner at Laurel Creek Manor. And we had a huge alcohol issue. Huge alcohol issue. And I was on the phone with the delivery people, and I was not friendly. Very not friendly at all. And I went upstairs and was putting on boutonnieres to the groomsmen and everything. And they knew that there was going to be an issue. And they were like, so did the alcohol show up? And I was like, everything's fine. And they're like, really? And I was like, yep, everything's okay. And they're like, are you going to tell us even if there was an issue? And I was like, everything's fine.
Yeah, right.
Just walk back downstairs, and they knew nothing. It was like, why would I destroy the pictures? Because that's exactly, you're right. It shows up. And that's why I do tell people, I says, see those stress-free pictures? In that on-time wedding? I've never had okay, we should knock on wood. I've never had a wedding not start on time. All my weddings start on time.
That's good. That's a good track record. Going back to, like I said, the challenges of selling is, it's like the best, planner you'll never know is there. Yeah. Right. And so it is really hard, I think. It is. Like
my aunt can take care of it. My cousin can, I get it all the time. And I'm like, okay. And usually they come back to me and say, oh yeah, it didn't work out. I'm like, I can't convince them. I can't convince the aunts or the cousins. I used to do them for people too. I don't anymore. Even for my own family, I still charge. I'm like, dudes, I charge because I'm not going to be the planner. I was not the planner at my son's wedding. I did not plan. I planned my son's wedding with his wife, but I had my staff do his wedding. I had a drink in my hand. Hello. I don't want to deal with it. So, I get it. And so that's what I try and tell people is I get it. I was there. I was a guest at my son's wedding. And I want you to be guests at your own weddings. So the people that get it are the people that will hire a planner. Even the ones that hire just month, they call it day of. We don't like the word day of. People, there's nothing that's called day of. Just anyone that's listening to this, it's not day of. Anyone that you hire that's just day of, please don't. No one can do it day of. They have to hire so that they get to know who the videographer is and the photographer is and who everyone is. So usually we do month of, and we will still do month of, but we start about 60 days prior to, because I got to know the vendors. I got to do that timeline. I have to know what's going on, because there's no way I could do the job, because I'm the one's going to get blamed. If I'm on site and the food's wrong, I'm blamed. No, I'm not going to get blamed.
And in this time of year now, I'm solidifying a lot of, timelines and plannings for, my weddings coming up this summer. And it is very clear to me, like, which ones have planners and which ones don't, because I send out my questionnaires and stuff, too, just in terms of like shot stuff that they want to see in the, in the video. And like, it is very apparent, like when I have a planner that's, immediately responding back, or like, if I have a question of like, hey, can we get the right, do I have the right address for like where the groom's getting ready? Or like, hey, can we confirm whatever, when you get those immediate things back? Cause then that's 10 less things that the couple has to deal with. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why like, it's like the week or two before the wedding, like you can't even get in touch with the couples, because they're so busy and families in town and all that. And so to have that dedicated planner, that you just know is getting.
Well, and somebody that's experienced that knows, videographers like 15 to 20 minutes alone with a couple. At least that's what I always give them. I let the videographer decide if they want it or not. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they'll just tag on with the regular photographer. But I like, there's all this stuff. Hair and makeup, number one reason a wedding's late. Hair and makeup.
Every time.
Every time. I swear, but I know I'm not supposed to, but it's every time. I will not let that happen. It never happens at my weddings. And I get it all the time from the hair and makeup people. They love me. They're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, not going to happen. Especially if we've got traveling, because usually hair and makeup is not done at the venue. So I've got to travel. I've got to get the bride to travel. And then, wait a second, I got to touch her up if she's redone. If she's done at the venue or where she's getting ready at the hotel, then I got to get her to the venue, and then I got to get her redone because she's had first look in between and her hair is done. So they don't realize that. And I always tell them, I'd rather have you stand around and be bored and enjoying and talking and relaxing and getting some extra shots than have you stressed and thinking, oh my gosh, we're not going to get on time. I'd rather have you stand and wait with your dad for an extra 5 minutes.
There's never been a wedding ever where I've thought, man, we had too much time. Like there was just way too much, we did not have enough going on.
That's because you haven't worked with me.
So I'm looking here on your site. You're talking about, I want to kind of get into now your past and getting into, where we find ourselves today. So you say you married your husband, Mark, in 1986.
Oh, so long ago. How many years ago is that?
Well, it was 31 because I was born
32. So it's 32 years. It'll be 32 years this September.
Yeah, I was
31.
Born in 86.
Oh my gosh.
That certainly dates.
I was very young when I got married.
The youngest wedding and the youngest wedding that's ever been. Talk about your wedding.
Oh my goodness. My wedding was very organized. I'll tell you that. I remember we got married up in Arlington, so I'm local. We had over 300 people at our wedding. It was an open invitation at the church and in the paper. And we had a lot of people from family. I have a huge family. So it was an event. I was Miss Arlington at one time, so it was an event. Yes. Yes, Reed, it was an event. So there was a lot of people there. And I was not working. I had been in a huge auto accident before I got married. So I was not working. And so I had a lot of time to plan my wedding. And my husband and I paid for it, paid the whole thing ourselves. He's not quite a bit, but he's about 6 years older than I am. So I planned the living daylights out of that thing. Started on time too. And it was very much formal. It was in a Catholic church. It was very, very formal. Tuxes, husband wore tails. And was harp player. It was typical Catholic wedding, obviously. Harp player, we had singers, we had, and I think back to it, and I think it's kind of funny because I think about the things that were most important to me was the timeline. This was 30 some odd years ago. Was the timeline, was making sure everyone was on time and everything. We did have it videoed. We have a video of it. We had it photography. We had semi-large wedding. If I had to do it over again, I would have to say I would probably not have a large wedding party.
How many did you have?
I think we each had 5 on each side.
Which is like small by today's standards. I've done them where it's 12.
I know, crazy. But I think if we had to do it over again, it'd be no one. Really, it would be no one. My favorite thing to do is I had a wedding in January where they drew names to pick who'd sign.
I had one where I actually had to, I was like a witness because they didn't have or whatever, which was, it was different. So things that you learned then that you're carrying on to today, you said timeline. And do what's you. We had a lip sync band. Hello, who has lip sync bands nowadays? People didn't know it was a lip sync band until, a few drinks in, and then they realized, wait a second, those people are really not playing that music. It was a lip sync band, but they really had real instruments and drums and everything. And they realized they could get up and karaoke.
because it was a lip sync band. So they were all afterward. I mean, it was a lot of people that were drinking a lot. And because it was so unique. No one really was, it was so us. It was so us.
Where was you said it was at a church, and then where
And the reception was just downstairs.
Oh, downstairs, yeah.
It was potlucked by the women from the church. And so there was a lot of food because there was a lot of people there. And my husband and I made our own cake. And that was, it was great. And when we left in a really fun car. We left in a really cool, I wish we'd stayed longer. My dad had to kick people out at 2 a.m. out of the church because they would not leave. Because they were lip sync band and there's a lot of alcohol. You know, it's a Catholic church. They were just having fun. So, yeah, I would have to say that, you know, and be who you want to be. I mean, make it you. That's what I tell all my clients. We're not going to cookie cutter your wedding. It is going to be you. It is going to be you. And that's what I did. And timeline. Oh, I was all about timeline.
So after you got married, you talked about going into the corporate life.
Yep.
So talk about, I guess, that and that experience.
So I went into the corporate life. I worked for, if you're in Washington State, you would know, First Bank, Bank of America. Got into the corporate life, was working off and on within the bank. 26 years I worked for their bank. And probably even more than that between the off and on kind of a thing. But I was eventually, through the time there, I kind of morphed into a whole bunch of different positions. And I ran, I worked for the president of the bank, HR manager of the bank, you know, for First Bank and Bank of America. Then I eventually I was in Tacoma and was managing the foundation down in Tacoma and Western Washington. And then I started working for a gentleman who covered commercial banking. And then he became a commercial banking for the Western United States. And we managed all of the Western United States. And then we became government banking. So it kind of morphed into all these different roles. And I became kind of like a sales person. I wasn't sales, but I was like a sales manager. But through the whole time, I was running all the events. And I was doing the nonprofit events, and I was doing all the different types of events. And eventually, I ran all of any kind of client or internal event in the West Coast for the 11 states. And at the very end, I started doing New York City for government banking. So I dealt a lot with governors, a lot of the protocol. So we did a lot of protocol training, etiquette training, and I did a lot of speech writing because we were doing a lot of governor kind of stuff and mayor stuff. And I did just events upon events upon events. And I started doing trade shows. We were doing a lot of trade shows, going to trade shows, participating in trade shows, helping them with trade shows. And I would do I was doing events. I was traveling every week. And then I started doing these huge forums, and I started teaching how to do them all across the country. And I was doing them in New York in large events that were 600 people in New York. And it was just, and I would run them. I would create they'd want to do a team thing. And I'd be like, okay, what's the topic? And they'd give me a topic, and I would create everything from nothing to PowerPoints to everything. And so I just was good at it. And then my gentleman that I worked for out here in the West retired. And they had asked me to move or take a package. So I took a package. And they gave me a really nice package. The bank was very good to me, very, very good to me.
Well, you've been there a long time.
I've been there 26 years.
Yes.
They were very good to me.
Yeah.
So they were very good to me, gave me a package. I got unemployment, and then I got a package, and I went back to school. And I got my degree in entrepreneurship because I knew I wanted to be a planner on my own because I'd already kind of was like, everyone kept saying, you could do this. You could do it. And I was like, well, I want to know how to run the business, though. I want to know the nuts and bolts because I knew I could plan, but I wanted to be able to say, I want to be able to, because it can be distracting. And I didn't want to be distracted by the business end of it when I'm working with clients. So I didn't want to have that distraction. I wanted to be able to know that because running a business can consume you like no tomorrow. It can consume you. It's a lot of sales. It's a lot of, there's accounting, there's insurance, there's a lawyer, people don't realize. And, when clients come to you and say, why do you charge so much? Well, let me tell you why I charge so much. I got the state, I got L&I got staff. There's a reason I have to pay my staff because there's all this stuff. I can't just 1099 them. So there's all this stuff I have to do. So I know the laws so that I am correct. So I went back to school. Got my degree in entrepreneurship and started up my business.
Where'd you go to school?
Pierce County.
Okay.
Or Pierce College.
And was that intimidating? Was that scary? Talk about that experience.
At first, going back to school at my age, kids, my son was already out of school. My daughter was already out of college. So going back to school at that age is a little intimidating, but actually, once I got in there, I was like, it was so easy. It was so easy to go back to school because I already knew most of it. I could actually probably teach most of the classes. I was a 4.0 student.
It is like you were talking about though, in terms of running the business. I mean, people don't know like how much of my day is not just shooting or editing.
Yeah.
Like it might be 7:00 at night and I'm finally like, oh, okay, now I'm actually going to, edit for the day. Because it's everything else. And like you said, with accounting and just running everything and where you have employees and stuff. I mean, did that give that education though? I mean, were there some lessons in there that you learned or when you got your degree?
I learned I had to have employees. In Washington State, it's kind of an interesting concept. In Washington State, you can hire people to work. I took employment law because you got to take employment law to get your degree. So in anywhere, in any state, you cannot hire people just to, let's see, how do I put this? If I tell you where to show up and the hours you're working and exactly what you're doing, you are my employee. I have to have you on payroll. If I tell you, hey, here's your project, like I have a gal that works for me, and I say, here's the work. I don't care what time you do it. She works from home. She works at midnight. I said, just don't email my clients at midnight. Just during the work hours. But she's working all these crazy hours. That is just somebody that's contracted. She's contracted. I can contract her all I want. But as soon as I have her show up at my event and I say, here are the hours and this is what I need you to do and this is exactly what you're going to do, she's payrolled. Unless she's doing it for somebody else too.
Well, and that's fascinating because I don't know if everybody knows that.
It's against the law.
I don't know if I know that. Mm-hmm. But no, I try to do proper paperwork and things as well.
So, and that's with me, because I look at my business as I'm going to be here a long time. And I'm going to grow my business, and I'm going to eventually hire a full-time wedding planner. I'm going to have somebody that's going to sit over here and she's going to manage all my weddings. And I'm going to hire somebody that's going to manage all my corporate events. And I'm going to be over here doing my network protocol training, and I'm going to be doing life celebrations. That is my passion over there. I'm going to do that. I love doing events. I mean, I'm going to go do the events. I'm still going to do the day of. But this portion over here, I'm going to grow my business. I'm going to get a brick and mortar. I'm going to have business. I'm going to be big. I'm not going to be, that's my plan for my business. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to grow it. I'm not going to sell it. It's going to be a business. So for that, I had to know all the rules and the laws and how it works. And I've seen too many businesses get shut down because they didn't follow the rules and laws or get sued by employees. I mean, there's some big companies, some big caterers out there right now getting sued because they did not follow the laws. I ain't going there.
And I think that goes back to, like you said, where this is what you do full time, you know, and having that be a focus and knowing that.
Yep.
So you were happy though in corporate.
Yeah.
You were happy with what you did, because I think usually it's the opposite, right? People get out because I
made great money.
And then you know, because he retired and everything, you had to go. So then you start Blue Wings, and what was that first kind of initial?
It was scary at first. It was funny because I had this whole group of people that were around me. Because when you start a business, you always have that core group of people that are your support group. And I had a group of people. I think you actually met one of them, Dina. She works my corporate events for me, and she, because I have some people that are very specifically really good at certain things, because I try and match them up with and that's one great thing about having different people on my staff, is I match their personalities and their talents with my clients. So Dina is a corporate person with me, and so she was kind of my first core person that kind of hung around me, and she was kind of my first coach kind of thing, and she was like, you just need to do it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And she's like, you got to get out there. And so I did that first little one, and I was like, and I don't even think I got any business out of it. And
was that your first wedding show?
I think it was my first wedding show.
Wow.
And I don't think I got any business out of it.
I didn't.
I didn't. It was no. And so then I waited, and I think I did the Tacoma one.
The Tacoma wedding show.
The Tacoma wedding show. In the spring. I can't remember when I did it. And I was like, I didn't want to do it. And she's like, you just got to go and do it. And I was like, fine. So I got a half booth or something like that. Brad but he gave me a full booth. And I was like, oh, great. And I went, and it's kind of like you're afraid. You're like, oh, what happens if I book something? And I left with, I think I left with 7 bookings for that year.
Wow.
And then I went to the Everett show, and I booked 14 of 40. I had 40 people inquire, and I booked 14 of them. And it was like, oh, wow. So
now I actually have to do this, right?
Yeah. And then I had to reevaluate why was I so afraid? And I think that's why I was afraid, because I knew I could do the job, and I knew I was really good at the job. And I was afraid that I would get too booked up, that I wouldn't be able to do the job properly. So, yeah. So I reevaluated my business plan, redid my business plan and how I do things now, and my focus. And so because I don't want to have too many weddings, because as a planner, I can't have too many weddings. I can't have 40 weddings. There's just no way. My clients would hate me. I'd get bad reviews. And I got a lot of good reviews right now, and I'm not going to let them go. And so I can't do a lot of weddings. So right now, I had to reevaluate to make sure I didn't take too many weddings.
I just was reminded when we were talking about the first wedding show, the first time I did a wedding show years ago, and I was like, what if everyone wants to book me day of? Not even to get. And I think I went, we were driving. It was down somewhere south, and I stopped by my mom's house because we didn't have a printer, and I had to print off. I was like, I got to print out contracts. And I don't even know if I had I found a contract online, and I was like, I got to have a bunch of contracts that people, and my wife, Dorothy's like, what? She wasn't even my wife yet. She's like, what are we? I go, I got to, if people want to book, I got to have, and
contracts.
Then 4 couples came through the whole day. So needless to say, my stack of blank contracts ready to fill out wasn't.
And I go to the Tacoma show, and I have no contracts. None. I'm like, no one's going to book me. And they're all like, do you have contracts? I'm like, no. fine, I'll bring some tomorrow. I mean, I did the Seattle show, and I have to laugh. I was like, it was the first time I'd done the Seattle show this year. And I think it was this year, wasn't it? January?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did the Seattle show, and I was like, okay, I'm prepared, because I have it online now. All my contracts are online now. And I actually had people come back the next day and say, can we sign contract right now? And I was like, dang, you come back they were so intent on booking because they knew my calendar was full. It was getting full. I was like, I show them my calendar. I'm like, you want me, this is how we got to book. And I just met with a couple last night. We're looking at next year. I got couples looking at 2020 already. I'm like, wow. But I started thinking about it. I go, yeah, I'm booking. I just had a couple that just got married in Indiana. I went there, Indianapolis. And they booked me a year and a half ago. They were one of my first clients that booked me. We finally got them married. But, it was a year and a half planning. Both of them professionals. She was getting her doctorate. They just were busy, extremely busy. They didn't have a lot of time, and they couldn't, plan their wedding. So I planned it for him. Yeah.
So Blue Wings, talk to me about that. The name.
The name?
Yeah.
Well, it's a dragonfly. The logo is a dragonfly. It's about the dragonfly. Dragonflies they have 4 wings, and they can hover, and they can fly forwards and backwards and sideways and everywhere. And so just like an event planner, which we are, we can maneuver. We look at an event and we can say, oh, we need to back up. We can reposition ourselves and kind of easily maneuver around whatever and readjust our situation quickly to whatever is happening. We're over here and grandma's got dementia, and we need to deal with that and have a really soft side to that. But over here, we've got our stripper and streaker that's running down the hallway, and I got to deal with that, and I got to be the tough person. So, so that's the idea of it, is that, it's based off the dragonfly.
That was good. My mind, I'm listening to the story. It's like,
yeah,
mind blown. No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. Talk about your first wedding as Blue Wings. What was that like? The first official client.
First official client. See if I can remember my first official client. First official client was, well, I don't know if I'd call it my first official client. He was somebody like my son. It wasn't my son, but he was like my son. So first official client, I've done so many events that it was not any different for me. Having been in the corporate world and having done so many events, it was an interesting concept because it was actually a family event. So the gentleman that was getting married was my son's best friend since he was 4 years old. So he is like a son to me. My entire family was there at this event. And my son was part of the wedding. He was the best man. So my daughter was there. My parents were there because they were considered grandparents and everything. So everyone there, I knew everyone. I was working it, and to a point, and then my assistant was there to take over most of it. So when I start working, I become a different person. I am not the same person. And they noticed that. It was like, they were like, wow, you're a different person. My family was like, you don't talk the same way. You don't act the same way. I'm like, yeah, there's a wall here, and I am a different person. And they were like, because they're talking to me, and I'm just like, blank wall. I'm like, you are talking to the wrong person. It's like I'm bipolar or something.
It's like an alter ego.
Yeah, I got an alter ego. Yeah. So I'm a different person. And I didn't know I was that way. They were the ones who pointed it out. And I was like, wow, I didn't know. And I asked my assistant, I go, am I that way? And she goes, oh yeah. Wow, that's interesting. And so that was an eye opener for me, that I was a different person. Not that I'm going to change at all, because you have to have that, that persona to put on you when you're at an event, because you have to have those people go away. You have to have that say, I can't be that way anymore. Sometimes I can't be the nice person. I got to be the dragonfly. I got to change all the time. So that's I thought that was really interesting for me. But, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Cause I'm not, you may or may not know, I'm really not that extroverted, right? I mean, I like to just kind of sit and do whatever, but, when it's like wedding day, like you got to be on.
Yeah.
And so, I think even, my wife or whatever would probably be surprised just in terms of like, the differences, and you learn, I think, and you adapt to kind of like what you need to be and what the situation calls for. And, going to that first, event that you planned, I do think that probably doing like the large corporate events, weddings are, I think, their own stress, but certainly that kind of, accustomed you to what to do and, having a lot of stress and stuff.
And when I look at it, the bank taught me a lot. It taught me when you are working at an event, you're on stage. I look at it being on stage. I look at it as being an actor. I am this totally different person. I am on stage. You've paid me to be this person. And now I am this person. And so you've paid me to be, what do I need to be right now? And so that is kind of, you've paid me to be the professional I am. And when I'm talking to my vendors, and the people are just amazed, like I did a huge event last fall, and everyone said, oh, last year we didn't get out of here until 1:00 in the morning. Even the venue said they got charged, and everyone was like, it was a mess. And I was like, well, why? And they were like, because no one got out of here on time. Well, first thing I did with all the vendors, okay, you're a professional. I've paid you as a professional. You will be out of here at 11:45. And if you're not, you will be on the sidewalk at 11:45. I don't care. And they're all like, really? And I just kept reiterating. And I go, remember when they checked in, I go, remember, you're on the sidewalk at 11:45. You are not inside the building at midnight. And they were like, okay. And at 11:40, I took a picture of my watch with the guy standing there, no one around. I says, we are out of here at 11:40. Everyone was like, the venue, the client was like, I can't believe it. How did you do that? I go, I treated everyone like a professional, the way you paid them. You paid them to be a professional. And that's the other thing I tell my clients. We don't sometimes ask for discounts, because if you ask for a discount, or if you don't pay your friend to be your photographer, you're going to get the friend deal. And sometimes that's not show up.
And that is a fair point. That I had a wedding a couple weeks ago, and we had a same day edit where they wanted, basically they hired 3 of us as opposed to the normal 2. And they wanted, we filmed the ceremony and portraits, and then edited that. I edited it and to play at the reception. And so I show up at the reception, looking for the projector, and it's a time crunch, right? I mean, I think it was like 4:15. They're coming at 5. We got about 45 minutes, and their sound system had been, graciously provided by a friend, and I'm trying to talk with the friend about like, hey, the laptop's here. We need to get the laptop plugged in. I don't have a bunch of audio. I have what I need, in a typical, but, I was under the assumption that, things would be there. And his response to me was, well, I'm not, I'm just giving them the sound system. I'm not getting paid for today. And, it was frustrating because, I said, I understand, that you're not getting paid. I am. And, more than that, I mean, they are paying a lot of money for us to do this same day edit. And so that kind of like rationale to me was kind of insane, right? That like, A, it's your friend, and we're trying to get going on this, but they're paying a lot of money for everybody else and the photography and the event. And, it's a larger sum than just you in this moment. But yeah, when it is like real working vendors, you do expect that everybody, you expect the DJ is going to work and you expect that the flowers are going to get there on time.
Exactly it.
That's a great story.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time. I always say, pay your vendors, every vendor. Even if they're friends and they are not, I don't need any money, the photographer, they don't want, no, you pay them. Because that way you have you get a contract. You're going to get a contract with them. Because that way you have something to hold them accountable with. Because if you don't, I had a bride, a year. She did not get her photos for a year. A year, people. Really? You would expect to get your photos more than a year before.
No, and like I said, even if it's like $500 or $100 or whatever, just to establish that client vendor relationship, I think is huge. Because, like I know people that are getting, married and sometimes we film it and sometimes we don't. But like, you need to really establish that.
And it helps them be professional. It helps everyone be professional. And it's also so that the professionals can treat them as professionals. So that when they're going and saying, I need this set up, I need this sound system, I need this projector, I need the food proper. Are you licensed to serve food? That kind of stuff. I mean, you have to make sure that is proper, and we're okay with everything, so that you have the event the way you want it to be. And I hesitant on asking vendors for discounts. I'm not one of those. I don't like asking. Some of my vendors will give me discounts, but I pass them on to the clients usually, but I don't particularly like them. A lot of times I'm like, can you just, give me the price? Because I want people to get paid for their job, and I want them to do the job well. So I find that if vendors feel that they're getting, it's just a discounted job, they're going to do a discounted job. And I tell clients that, do you want a discounted job or do you want a really good job?
I had been asked by a planner, that I still have never worked with, but like kept trying to talk me down in price. Mm-hmm. And I had said, I'm happy to, do a flat rate at this. And I just thought that was so interesting because it's like, you're still getting paid. We should all, everybody should all get paid what everybody needs to get paid, and I probably shouldn't have even offered that having not worked with her before. Mm-hmm. But, I felt like, in good faith, well, it's all about, opening doors. But, ultimately your goal is to find the people that are most qualified, and your client's budget. And if people work, then they work. And if they don't, they don't. And the other, you were talking about, when we got married, my wife's friend had graciously offered to help, coordinate the day of for us. And I told her no, because I wanted somebody that I could yell at,
exactly,
if things. And I said, we love you too much as a friend, and you are one of my wife's really good friends.
Or somebody you don't know.
I don't want that. Rebecca, I'm sorry I yelled at you on my wedding day. You had talked way back about, some key differentiations between, how you guys handle your clients versus everybody else. Summarize that for me here as we kind of are wrapping up the podcast. How do you view what you guys do as, different and or better than what others do?
Well, we're just kind of switching over our plan, how we work with our clients. We're slowly working our clients that way, that we are working more towards our clients come to us we're finding that the clientele that we get is, again, a lot of professionals that are, not that we won't take other clients, but we get a lot of clients that are just don't have time. And they really just want to hand the whole thing over to us. So we have found that we are, and it's how we work our corporate clients already. So it's something we already are used to doing. And it's where we write the contract. We pretty much, a couple comes to us, and if they don't have their venue already, we help them find a venue. So we contract with them, we help them find their venue. Then what happens after they find their venue is we then plan their wedding for them. Kind of, we go out and we say, okay, I help them with the with everything. I go, okay, what is it you want? I sit down, and it doesn't take me long. I pretty much can read clients pretty well. I got some questions, and I pretty much got it down. And I have and I've gotten so good at it, I can sit there and talk to the clients and go, yeah, I know here's the DJ, just sign the contract. I pretty much know who they want. So we just decided that we're done giving them options, and they love it. So what I do is I say, okay, and they come back to me, they give me, okay, what's your budget? They give me their budget, and I say, okay. Then I go out and I find out all the contractors. They want video, I find the videographer that's going to fit. I ask for bids. I go out to all my vendors. Okay, I need a bid. And then I find the ones that are going to work personality-wise, because I match personality and budget. So to me, that's very important. Personality, style. I'm really after the style and the personality. So when it comes to photography, that really helps, because the couple's with that photographer all day long. So personality helps a lot. DJ, it's the sound of the voice. Got to be the sound of the voice. So there's a lot of things, but I'm catering, all that kind of stuff. So I will come back to the client and I'll say, here's everything. They'll hand over the money to me. I will contract through Blue Wings Events. They're done. They're done. There's nothing else. They get to choose food. They get to go to a tasting. They are not going to pay for anything anymore unless they go above and beyond, unless they say, well, I want all roses now, or I want all of something, or I want to change, and I want 10 bridesmaids versus one. Okay, well, now we're going to change something. So then we'll make an amendment to the contract. But other than that, they're pretty much done.
And I do think that is a lot of when I'm contracted for corporate work, events and stuff. I mean, I do think that's kind of the way it is. And I do think that, with you, it really is like there's not a lot of BS, right? I mean, I do think like you are, and you handle things like you said, we're all adults and we're all, contracted, and like even taking the bids and stuff. And like, I mean, it's work, right? And like, who wants to work and who's ready to do this? And then, okay, now we get past who's available, and now what personality.
And what happens is clients don't realize is when there's a contract between the bride and groom, and let's say the florist, and the contract's between them, and there's something that goes wrong, or even the caterer, there's something that goes wrong, and I step in and try and fix it. They're going to say, well, what's the bride want?
Yeah.
And then they're going to go back to the bride. And I'm like, dude, the bride told me, I know what's going on. Listen to me. But they're not going to listen to me. And I get it all the time. I go to venues all the time, and they'll go, well, I'll ask the bride. I'm like, really? She doesn't have time. So I get that a lot, and it kind of frustrates me, because my bride's like, I don't want to talk to them. I'm talking to you. So it makes it easier. If the contract is in Blue Wings Events name, you read, will answer to me. The vendor will answer to me, and they will know they're answering to me. If they want to do business with me again, they're going to do what Blue Wings wants. And so they are more apt to actually really, they're still going to work with the client. You're still going to talk to the client and make appointments. The photographer and the hair and makeup, they're still going to make those appointments and say, what do you want? How do you want to do this? That kind of a thing. And what's your song list? And what's, that kind of stuff. But the contract stuff is going to be me or Blue Wings Events. So it makes it a little bit easier for the clients. And I think clients unless they're really into contracting and knowing that stuff at work.
They're not. Most people are not.
They're not. They don't understand it. And so for them to be able to say, oh, wow, I don't have to do that? Mm-hmm. And you actually don't even have to carry the contract. Guess what? I'm going to carry the contract now. And it's going to be under me. So it makes it a little bit different for them. So that's kind of what we're doing a little bit differently for our clients. We will still do it the other way because some of the clients, like the month of clients, they've already got all the contracts going and all that kind of stuff. So, but we are offering this way now. And so like a couple I met with last night, literally you saw this groom go, oh, and I mean, literally he just, melted into the table. I mean, he's got a brand new job. He's working this huge job. They're remodeling a home. They're trying to get married. He just melted. He was like, and I showed him 2 venues. He goes, I want that one. I was like, oh, that was easy. It was amazing. And he was like, that is so much easier. And I was like, yeah, it is, isn't it? He goes, I just get to go to the tasting? Yeah. Pick food.
But yeah, people like the idea of getting married, but the actual process of getting married is...
they don't need to learn how to be a planner.
No.
They don't need to learn how to what videographers, do the research. Why do they want to do that? Why would you want to do all that research and figure out which caterers are really, really good at doing certain things? Which one's got the best tacos? Which taco truck? Which trucks, if you want food trucks? Which ones really do a good job and which ones don't? Really? Do you want to learn that? I know.
Well, and I think that's a great point. I see a lot of things like in the wedding forums and stuff where people are like, looking for a videographer. There's 100 people post. I'm looking for a florist, 100 people post. Because there are a million options,
of them,
right?
yeah.
And so, if they choose to work with you guys, you either have people already or you can do the research.
Yep, that's right.
Because, you look at that and people, I sit there sometimes and people, they'll get, I'm looking for 3 different things and they'll get 1,000 different results. And I'm like, they're either going to go through 2 of those or they're crazy and they're going to go through 1,000 of them for something that they're probably never going to need to know ever again. So I think I
have a couple that's getting married in Stevenson, Washington, which is, go to Portland, turn left 45 minutes.
That's far.
It's far away. Okay. It's far away, people. It's a beautiful venue, very beautiful venue. We found it. I did a lot of research finding it. Because the couple was like on opposite ends of venues that they wanted. Took me a long time, but I found it. So, but what happened was the photographer, I couldn't find the photographer. It's kind of one of those things where every photographer, I just was like, nope. And I was sitting with them with their DJ because I had found a DJ for him. The bride said something and it was like, I knew it. I knew exactly what photographer. Okay, these photographers are in Bellingham. But I had them at a wedding in Bellingham. And I was like, that's it. That's who they are. And as soon as I matched them up and hooked them up and they saw the photos, they were like, yep. They had a phone call with them. They were like, yep, that's it. But it just took me, they would have never, ever found these gals.
Yeah, opposite ends of that.
Ever found these gals. But it was exactly the photographer they needed. But it was just me taking finding that something. I don't know what she said something. The bride said something and I was like, I know what they want. I figured it out. But it was, they would never find these people. And we're in the business. You see it all the time too. So we see it. You see it, and you go, "Oh yes, now I know." Yeah. So that's kind of where I like very personalize my vendors with my clients. So I have a lot of vendors and I like certain vendors, but do I stick with them all? No. If a different vendor works price point wise and personality wise, I'm all over sending my clients to them.
Well, because ultimately it is about the client.
It's about my client.
It's got to come first.
Yeah.
And, it's like you have to defend your client. Always, it's you always got to look out for
them best. I don't per se stick to any linen vendor or anything. I'm all over the place with linens. I'm like whatever works. I'm like whatever I can get. So I don't stick with any videographer. I'm like, not a lot of people do videography right now with my clients, but I don't know. So
call me.
I know. I do. I send them to you all the time.
Well, this has been such a delightful conversation. I've really enjoyed you. Thank you so much for coming here today and talking. If people want to learn more about you and Blue Wings Events, what would you have them do? They can
definitely go to my website, bluewingsevents.com, and it's Blue Wings Events with all plurals. .com. They can give us a call. They can email me at angela@bluewingsevents.com. Totally worth getting, we'll set up an appointment with you, 30 minutes. I'll do a call with you. I'm more than happy to chit chat with people for a few minutes and just kind of find out where they're at, because a lot of people don't even understand what their budgets. I kind of was, okay, let's talk a little bit about budgets. I kind of help them a little bit through that budgeting, because budgets they go, oh, I want my wedding $5,000. Okay. How much are you, Reed? And then I go, well, what? Then I start asking, well, how many people? Let's talk about that. Do you realize? And the one question I always tell people, or I ask people, is, how much do you pay for a cup of coffee at Starbucks? Times that by how many people? Now you've just got a cup of coffee for all your guests. Catering is not cheap. So I like to just kind of bring people, I'm kind of that reality person. And I'm that big picture. So I allow them, give me a call. I would totally or shoot me an email and we'll set up a time at Angela@bluewingsevents.com, and totally I'll set up a time. Would love to hear them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for listening. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week. We will have another wedding vendor interview. Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, Reed. Appreciate it. Thanks.